This video is meant for models on social history of England right from the beginning. It is in the form of question and answer. First is give the period of the Black Death, 1348 to 1349. When was the Peasants' Revolt? In 1381. How many years the War of Roses was fought? 33 years between 1455 and 1488. What were the three main features of modern civilization? Individualism, materialism, and enterprise. What does Renaissance mean? Renaissance means rebirth. Where did Renaissance start? Started in Italy. Who prepared the ground for Renaissance? Dante, Petrarch, and Boccaccio. Who captured Constantinople and when? The Turks in the year 1453. Who invented the printing press? John Gutenberg, a German, in 1454. Who brought the printing press to England? William Caxton in 1476. Which invention helped the sailors? The mariner's compass. What did Columbus discover? America in 1492. What was Vasco da Gama's exploration? He reached Calicut through the Cape of Good Hope in 1498. Who completed the first circumnavigation of the world? Magellan and Sebastian del Cano. Which period is referred as Middle Ages? 476 AD to 1500. What was Ptolemy's of Egypt's theory of cosmology? Ptolemy's theory was Earth as the center of the universe. Who discovered that the sun was the center of the universe? Copernicus of Holland. Who revealed the solar system as we know it today? Kepler and Galileo. Who was the first apostle of Renaissance sculpture? Lorenzo Gibert, Gibert. Mention the great masters of Renaissance painting. Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Titian. What were the great paintings of Leonardo da Vinci? The Holy Supper and Mona Lisa. Which painting of Michelangelo is the most famous? The Last Judgment. Which style was followed in architecture during Renaissance period? Gothic style with pointed arches, soaring pinnacles, and spires. What was Roman and Greek style in architecture? Columns, round arches, and domes. Name the greatest figure of the literary Renaissance. Dutch scholar Erasmus. Mention Erasmus's most famous book, The Praise of Folly. In which language did Erasmus translate the Bible? Into Latin. In England, who began the Renaissance in literature? Sir Thomas More. What is More's famous work? Utopia. It means nowhere. Name the epic written by Spenser. Faerie Queene. Give the names of the writers of the Renaissance in England. Ben Jonson, Francis Bacon, and Christopher Marlowe. Who was the father of English tragedy? Christopher Marlowe. Name the leader of the Reformation movement. Martin Luther. Into which language did Martin Luther translate the Bible? Into German. Who translated the Bible into English? William Tyndale. Who founded the Society of Jesus? Ignatius of Loyola in 1540. Those who protested against the Pope were known as dash Protestants. What is referred by the word Reformation? It refers to the great religious movement of the 16th century. What was the aim of Reformation? To reform the doctrines and practices of the Church at Rome. Who started the Reformation? Started by Martin Luther in Germany. Who established Protestantism? Martin Luther of Germany. Which was responsible for the crisis in Reformation, selling indulgences to build St. Peter's Church in Rome? What did Martin Luther do on 31st October 1517? Martin Luther nailed 95 debating points to the door of the Wittenberg Church. 95 debating points. Which English king wrote in defense of the doctrines of the Church then? King Henry VIII. Who awarded Henry VIII of England the title Defender of the Faith? Pope Leo X. Who lit the first torch of Reformation in England? John Wycliffe. What were Wycliffe's followers called? Lollards. Lollards. Why the Reformation in English was personal. Henry VIII wanted to divorce Catherine of Aragon and marry Anne Boleyn. Why did Pope Clement VII delay Henry VIII's divorce? Pope was under the control of Charles V, the French king. Charles V was the nephew of Catherine of Aragon. When did Henry VIII summon the Reformation Parliament? 1529. What was the result of the Reformation Parliament? There was a split between England and Rome. What was the first of the act of the Reformation Act? Deprived. The first act of the Reformation deprived the clergy of their fees. What did the Acts of Annales stop? The first year income of the Pope from the bishops. What did the Act of Appeals in 1533 stop? It stopped the appeals from the English court taken to the Pope. How was Pope's authority in England was completely abolished by the Act of Supremacy in 1534? How was the monasteries dissolved? In 1536 by passing a bill in the Reformation Parliament. The monasteries were dissolved in England. What was the bill passed in 1539? The Statute of 6 Articles. When was the first prayer book prepared? In 1549. Who prepared the first prayer book? Archbishop Cranmer. Name the Catholic ruler in Tudor family. Queen Mary. Who started the Church of England? Henry VIII. Who founded the Church of England? Queen Elizabeth. What are the 2 acts that made the Church of England free from Rome? the Act of Supremacy and the Act of Uniformity. What title was given to Queen Elizabeth by the Act of Supremacy? Supreme Governor of the Church. Who were active in maritime enterprise in Elizabeth's age? Sir Walter Raleigh, Sir John Hawkins, and Martin Frobisher. Who is the Englishman who completed the first circumnavigation of the world? In 1580, Sir Francis Drake completed the first circumnavigation of the world. This is by a first Englishman. Name the first epic in English. Spenser's The Faerie Queene. How many plays did Shakespeare write totally? He wrote 37 plays. This noisy audience of Shakespeare's days were known as groundlings. Who was the first English dramatist? The first English dramatist was Robert Greene. Which was the first English tragedy? Thomas Kyd's The Spanish Tragedy was the first English tragedy. Who is regarded as the father of English tragedy? Christopher Marlowe is regarded by all as the father of the English tragedy. What does the Petition of Right say? Petition of Right says no tax, loan or gifts to be collected from the people without the permission of the Parliament. Why the Puritans were called so? Because they wanted to purify the rituals of the established church. When did the Civil War begin in the Stuart age? The Civil War began on 23rd October 1642. What were the two groups in England then? The whole England was divided during Stuart age into two groups, the supporters of the king and the supporters of the Parliament. What were the supporters of the king were called the Royalists or the Cavaliers. What were the supporters of the Parliament called? The Roundheads. Who emerged as a dictator after the Second Civil War? Oliver Cromwell emerged as a dictator. Who are called the Presbyterians? Presbyterian churches derive their name from the Presbyterian form of church government, which is governed by representative assemblies of elders. Which event is called the Pride's Purge? In 1648, Colonel Pride sent away all the Presbyterians who wanted to have a compromise with the king. This event is known as Pride's Purge. What did the Rump Parliament decide? It decided to execute Charles I. On what did the Puritans pattern their lives? Puritans patterned their lives on the teachings of John Wycliffe and John Calvin. Mention the greatest epics written by John Milton. Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained. Name the greatest allegorical prose work written by John Bunyan. The Pilgrim's Progress. Which is the great political event during the Restoration period? The formation of political parties. Whom did the Tories support? The Tories were the supporters of the king. Whom did the Whigs support? The Whigs were the supporters of the Parliament. Name the two houses of the Parliament in England. the House of Lords and House of Commons. Who founded the Royal Society of Science? The Royal Society of Science was founded by King Charles and his cousin, a scientist, Prince Rupert, in the year 1662. 1662. What is the most successful restoration drama? Successful drama was Wycherley's Country Wife. 1684, Tennyson, the Archbishop of Canterbury, established a public library in London. This was the first public library in England. So it was in the year 1684 by Tennyson, Tennyson, the Archbishop of Canterbury, who reconstructed the building and churches after the Great Fire. The reconstruction was done by Christopher Wren in 4 or 5 years. Who were called royalists? The supporters of the king were called royalists or cavaliers. Who were called roundheads? Those who supported the parliament were known as parliamentarians or roundheads. When was monarchy restored in England? 1660. Restoration period starts in 1660. Who became the father of the party system in England? The Earl of Shaftesbury became the father of the political party system in England. The Earl of Shaftesbury. Who brought the Glorious Revolution in 1688? The Whigs and Tories together. Who was the first Prime Minister of England? Robert Walpole was the first Prime Minister of England. When was the first Reform Bill passed? In 1832. Name the Prime Ministers for not less than 4 times in post. Robert Peel, Palmerston, Disraeli and Gladstone. Who advanced the independence of India? Clement Attlee was the one who expedited the independence for India. Bring out the differences between the Tories and the Whigs. Tories, Anglicans; Whigs, dissenters or Puritans. Second point, Tories, royalists or cavaliers; Whigs are parliamentarians or roundheads. Tories, supporters of the king, and Whigs, supporters of the parliament. Tories were against the French Revolution. Whigs welcomed the French Revolution. Tories were conservatives. Whigs were liberals. Tories belonged to Conservative Party, which represented property, and Whigs are liberals representing salaries and wages. Thank you.